Welcome to another edition of Let's Play WCCW Reliving the Territories. Before we get into this week's episode of World Class Championship Wrestling, I want to elaborate on something, and that something that I want to elaborate on is, for right now, the World Class Let's Play needed to be pushed to the background while the WWE series wraps up, because by this point either the WWE series will be over or close to being done. So now the spotlight can shine on World Class Championship Wrestling because a spot has been opened. What does this mean for the return of the How I Would Book It series? Well, I guess I'm doing 4 of them. That's what it means. So, as you can see, the show is a little bit different this week than it was last week, but also to provide you with a little bit of an update. Bruiser Brody and Killer Tim Brooks main evented last week, and due to some issues with how the storylines are set up, because they have everyone aligned with people, I was unable to actually push the Freebirds versus the Von Erichs feud like I wanted to last week. And also, I was unable to, and also, as you saw, the feud between Gary Hart and Jose Lothario has gotten underway after Jose Lothario cut a promo or mentioned Gary in his interview last week when he introduced his new protege, El Hijo del Tejas. And with that being said, it's only fair that Gary Hart and Kabuki get given interview time this week. So now, let's jump into the show as Bill Irwin and Chris Adams open up this week's broadcast of World Class Championship Wrestling, and we see Chris Adams become the new WCCW television champion, and that is because I released the former champion, Al Madril, from his contract due to him not being fit to hold the television title. This is not an insult to Al Madril. This is an insult to the person who made the file, because they made it where Al Madril, in my opinion, was not even popular enough to be television champion, because comparing him to other heels in the company, there was no way Al Madril could beat those other heels without damaging those heels severely in popularity. So either way, Chris Adams is the new WCCW television champion, and no better way, in my opinion, than starting off the show with a title match. And then we move into the first of 3 interviews tonight, this being with the Fabulous Freebirds, as Michael, Buddy, and Terry talk about what happened a few weeks ago at Christmas Star Wars, when the Freebirds turned to the Von Erichs, and Terry Gordy Michael Hayes, specifically, ended up screwing Kerry Von Erich out of the NWA World Heavyweight Championship against the Nature Boy Ric Flair. And why the Freebirds did it. And now, much like last week, when the Von Erichs faced three heels in a 6-man tag team match, the Freebirds are facing 3 baby faces in a 6-man tag team match. And though this may not have been very common Look, I'm still learning as I go how to book in the 1980s, so bear with me if this isn't specifically how someone would book in the 1980s. Let me learn as I go. I'm just, just let me learn. So either way, Michael Hayes and Terry Gordy stole the match, getting 75 in-ring performance, 75 as their in-ring performance. Buddy Roberts wasn't that far behind with a 60, but there's a reason why Spike Huber, Tolayatsu, and Gary Young are considered, in my opinion, to be jobbers. But I will say this, that Spike Huber might have just net himself a job by doing better in-ring than both Tolayatsu and Gary Young, even though, yes, Gary Young is not employed by me, Tolayatsu is. And the old saying is, if you can beat a talent that works for me, then you become a talent that works for me. Speaking of beating a talent that works for me, the Ugandan giant Kamala starts off the year with a bang, defeating Brian Adias, or quickly dispatching Brian Adias. And unfortunately, as you can see at the bottom, Kamala and his manager Arman Hussein do not click. They are a very poor combination, so maybe Friday, aka Kim Chi, will just be the direct manager of Kamala. The only reason why I put Arman Hussein as his manager is because of the fact that Arman is a better talker than Friday is, so at least somebody could cut promos for Kamala. And speaking of that, this is where Arman Hussein and Friday, they build up Kamala. They build up the Ugandan giant and what people can expect from Kamala this year in World Class in 1983. See, now, with the poor chemistry between Kamala and Arman Hussein, I may actually pull a WWE thing and pull a WWE thing and sell Kamala's contract to Gary Hart and send Arman Hussein away from World Class Championship Wrestling. See, you may say, oh, he was one of the bad, blah, 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 blah. All that's fine, but in-game is different than in real life, because also I didn't grow up in the 1980s, so I'm booking as best I can, and hopefully, by the end of this series, you will be as happy as I am, as I'm anticipating I will be, at the end of this series, with how I booked World Class and how I am leaving World Class Championship Wrestling. But either way, something that I noticed I had to do right out of the gate was build up the tag team division for World Class, because the only two tag teams that they had were different variations of the Fabulous Freebirds and the Von Erichs. That is why the Thunderfoots and the Fantastics joined World Class Championship Wrestling, and unfortunately, Thunderfoots don't work well as a tag team. Specifically, the two people that I put under the masks, Gene Legion and Joel Deaton, the actual people who wrestled as the Thunderfoots. The benefit for me is, though, that I can pick two other people to replace him as the Thunderfoots. But either way, the Fantastics start their world-class careers on a high note, defeating the Thunderfoots in their debuts. And then we head to the main event. Yes, I know, Gene Lejeune. No, Joel Deaton got injured in the match with a strained kneecap, or damaged kneecap. Before his main event match against David Von Erich, Gary Hart and his client Kabuki stand with Mark Lawrence as Mark Lawrence asks Gary Hart his thoughts on what we saw or heard from Jose Lothario last week on this program, and Gary Hart says, "You may think that your credentials measure up to me, Lothario. But the one difference we have is that I have actually accomplished things as a manager. I've managed champions. The only person you managed turned his back on you, Jose. And I'm sure that your new client, your precious protege, is gonna do exactly the same thing, because you are no Gary Hart. It doesn't matter where I find my talent. It matters that I have more talent in my little finger than you have in your entire body, and I actually know how to lead. Because there's a reason why your tag team partners turn on you. There's a reason why your proteges turn on you. It's because nobody wants to learn from a loser. And you are a loser, Jose. If you think your precious protege can measure up to Kabuki, then just name the time and the place, and Kabuki will make your client, your precious protege, regret stepping in the ring with the most dangerous man in world-class championship wrestling. And then we move to the main event, Kabuki against David Von Erich. And unfortunately, David Von Erich and Kabuki don't click as opponents, which damaged the main event. I mean, if last week is any indication, I'm not that worried, because, I guess you could say the requirements are low when the season starts. So let's just see what the final rating is for this week's episode of World Class Championship Wrestling. And the final rating is a 61. For this week's episode of WCCW Television. See, I told you, the expectations are low to start the season, or to start the year, and as we grow, so do the expectations. So, I wonder where we'll be near the end of the year, and I will also tell you this, that thus far, the response to this has been very, very, very well. So much so that I think that episode 3 will be coming out a hell of a lot sooner than the gap between episode 1 and episode 2, which I apologize for that. But as I mentioned earlier in the video, I did that because I needed to finish up, or at least get closer to finishing one of the other Let's Plays that I was doing, because I didn't want to extend myself too much. So, with that being said, let me know down in the comment section, not what you liked about the video, what you hated about the video, and what you have done different if you were me, and also, what do you think of how I'm booking 1983? What do you think of my booking so far? Yes, there's only been 2 episodes, but let me know down in the comment section also what you think of my booking thus far in this series. Is it on par with how somebody would book in the 1980s, or a little off base? Let me know. But if you don't want to leave a comment, you can always leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this that you can only find right here at Wrestling Express. Don't worry, episode 3 will be out very soon. Believe me. Till then, later.